Do Chinese and Japanese people think that all white people look the same? I remember moving to Toronto from South Korea at the age of 10 and asking myself, how do I tell these white people apart? They all look same. So I was puzzled when a white boy in my neighborhood told me that he has problem distinguishing us East Asians from one another. After a year or so living there, I gradually became used to telling the differences between white people, so it's a matter of familiarity. I'm sure any white person moving to East Asia would experience the same after staying there for a while. I've got a couple of funny stories being mistaken for someone else as a result of what you're asking, OP. The same thing happens in reverse. There was a real I am fucked moment for me walking into my first class of 52 Chinese students, all roughly the same height when seated, all with the same uniforms, the same eye and hair color, and about 4 different haircuts between them. Your brain figures it out after a while. There really are a multitude of facial differences that I wasn't tuned into before. There is some research which shows that people are more skilled at distinguishing others within their race than outside of it. My wife is Asian and she does get confused at times. Culturally, we white people tend to look a lot at hairstyles, hair color, and eye color to recognize others. Asians don't have that option as hair and eye color are mostly similar, so the immediate focus goes to facial features. So in a way, our brain does racially profile to recognize people depending on where we are born, as our brain is trained on what is most efficient. But I wouldn't go as far as all white people looking alike. Nor do all Asians look alike if you train your brain a little to focus on different features. Don't know about Chinese and Japanese, but my Indian classmates in grad school sure had trouble telling me apart from the other white blonde girls in our class. Yes, I'm not Chinese or Japanese, other Asian, and I think most white people have similar faces, especially dudes with long blonde hair looks like Jesus all the time. They do. I was in a direct flight from Frankfurt to Shanghai and had time to spare. There was this flight attendant that was bored enough to have a chit-chat with me, and that subject came up. She confided that it was indeed the case. The average Caucasian is kinda all the same for them. They just noticed the difference on Northern European types and Americans. The later only cause stereotypes loud, overweight, her words, not mine. As an Asian, my wife is white and I joke that her and her side of the family all look the same to me, lol. But I think there's a bit more variety with their facial features, and the more I'm exposed to it, I become more familiar with it. I have more trouble telling the difference as races tend to blend together. I have black hair and brown eyes. My wife has blonde hair, green eyes. But our 4 kids have a combination green-brown eyes, light, but brown hair. Don't know about Japanese, but I'm a white foreigner living in China and I've been told this many times by Chinese people. All people that look the same if you don't look at them. Like it's ideal to give the police as much info as possible. But we don't always stare everyone's tattoo down for hours either. Not if we're used to them. I'm East Asian, and while it was always the case, I can, with spotty reliability, guess if somebody's, say, Slavic, Western European, fair-skinned Italian, Nordic, etc. I can try zooming in a bit further, but that increases the chance for error. Like I might be able to guess if someone's, for instance, German, English, Irish or French, but I'm not awfully confident about that because of the overlap and or lack of familiarization. And of course, if you give me a group I just don't encounter much, like Arabic, Hispanic, or African, then I'm clueless beyond the base category again. According to my Japanese wife, yes, hair color, style, and context help her identify and differentiate whiteys she has only met a few times. Between the ages of 19 and 35, I was told hundreds of times that I look just like Brad Pitt. Shockingly, I don't look that much like Brad Pitt. 99 of the time when I've heard this, it has been from Asian or Middle Eastern people. I literally had a group of Chinese tourists ask me to pose with them for a picture in a mall once. I was happy to do it. There are certainly worse people to be told you look like. The phenomenon of being able to more easily recognize facial differences in your own race is called the cross-race effect. n.wikipedia.org Wiki cross-race effect. Kind of. The part of your brain that differentiates faces gets trained on the faces you're used to seeing. So if you get exposure to them and try, it shouldn't be an issue. But if you live somewhere Western faces are rarely seen, you will likely find it harder. Not necessarily. I'm Chinese and the differences between white people are so very unambiguous. This could be, however, attributed towards me having grown up in Western culture and indulged predominantly in Western media. As someone who lived between Hong Kong and Canada, I don't think anyone looks the same at all. Either I have decent facial distinction or you don't live around enough East Asian people. Korean, and yes, I've been known to have face blindness for white people specifically. Y'all need new hairstyles. I'm a white lad and grew up in a pretty multicultural city, Birmingham, UK. And I do have a confession to make. I mean, I've been caught out over it a few times, but I can't tell blonde girls women apart. Lol, I wish I was joking.